Hi guys, it's Nikki, Creative Nicki's Homemade Crafts. Today we'd like to teach you how to do clusters on a slant. You're going to see that there's some kind of diagonal here going, and it's very pretty. And yeah, so the whole entire stitch pattern is made using double crochets, and it's very easy to do. I'm going to teach you how to do it in a row, or rows I should say, but you can easily convert this into rounds in case you do want to do that. So instead of pretty much doing what is on the wrong side, you're just going to keep on going with the right side. So that's pretty much the difference between the round and the rows. So let's get started. I'm going to kind of put that to the side a little bit. The entire stitch is made out of a multiple of 5 plus 3. In my case, it is the number 18. That means I have 3 times 5 plus 3. Okay, so all of it is done in double crochets. So first we're going to start with a cluster in the 6th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like to go in the back bump, so you can do it in the front, but I like to do it that way. So I'm going to pull the yarn as high as a double crochet and just make a simple cluster of 3. See that? Yarn over, pull through, so I have 2, and then pull through 2. So now I have 4 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4. Very simple cluster. Most people have done clusters before. Chain 1. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches and make a double crochet in the 3rd. Okay, just a simple double crochet. Now we're going to go back to the 2nd of the 2 skipped stitches, okay, and place a double crochet in front. So that might be a little tricky for some people, so maybe make sure you yarn over, you push your hook through that stitch, but then you make sure that that hook is in the front, so you kind of put the double crochet in the back. Yarn over, pull through, you have 3, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and that's your double crochet. So it's a double crochet in front of the double crochet that we made beforehand. Now chain 1. Now you're gonna skip 1 chain, and now you're going to make the cluster again. So let me show you the cluster. Yarn over, pull through, so you have 3 on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Now you repeat that. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, and one more time. Now you have 4 on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 4, chain 1. Now we're repeating that what we just did with the double crochets that are in front of each other. Skip 2, 1, double crochet. Now the next one is in front, but 1 stitch in front of it. Okay, so the second one that we just skipped, that's the one we're placing it through. I like to push it through first, and I place that double crochet to the back as you just saw me do. And now you do a normal double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and now you're doing another cluster. Now you finish that cluster, chain 1. Now you're gonna skip 2 stitches. I just noticed that I have an extra chain, so that doesn't matter. We're gonna just, oh, actually I don't. Never mind. I just realized that I don't. I did everything correct. I just forgot that I have to do 1 extra double crochet in the back. Alright, so we're skipping 2 stitches. We'll place a double crochet. We're going to place a double crochet in the 2nd of the 2 stitches that we skipped. Make sure you're doing it in a front, so you push that, see, double crochet to the back, and that's the one that gives you that diagonal, right? So you don't want to make sure you're doing that right. Okay, chain 1, and now you place 1 more double crochet into that very last stitch. Alright, you chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now you turn. Okay, so every time now you see that X, when you see that X, let me kind of zoom. Can I zoom further? No, that's alright. I think this is pretty clear. Alright, so every time you see that X, so let me kind of clarify. This is an X, this is a cluster, X, cluster, X, cluster, right? So every time you see that X, you're putting between the X's, you're putting right here in between, in that hole, in that gap, or space, whatever you want to call it, you're putting a cluster, okay? And the double crochet X's are going to be around the cluster that follows. So let me show you what that means, okay? So we're going to place a cluster in between that X, right? Alright, finish up the cluster, chain 1. Now we're doing those X's around that cluster. So you're first going behind that cluster and placing a double crochet. And now the next double crochet is in that space in front of the cluster. Again, it is in front of the double crochet you just made. So make sure your hook is in the front of it. Okay, so you now made your X, chain 1. Now we're coming back to the X, and we have to make a cluster. So you probably get that now. So it's very easy. So every time you see an X, you make a cluster. Every time you see a cluster, you make the X around it. Chain 1. Now we see the cluster again. We need to make that X. We go back now and go in front of the cluster, in front of the double crochet. My X is made. Chain 1. I see an X, I need to make a cluster. Alright, and now chain 1. I see a cluster, therefore I make an X. In front of the cluster, in front of the double crochet. That might takes a little getting used to if you haven't done something like that, but it's very easy to get used to. Now in the third chain of this turning chain right here, you place a double crochet, and I forgot to yarn over. Make sure you go through 2 loops. Alright, double crochet done. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you turn your work. Alright, so now you're going to see a X this time, or I should say again, because you did it on the other side as well. So now this row repeats. So you see an X, you make a cluster. I'm going to finish up this round at this row one time for you here, so you can see this. So we made a cluster, chain 1, I see a cluster, I make an X. So one more X, one more double crochet to create the X. Chain 1, I see an X, I create a cluster. Alright, one more. And chain 1. I see a cluster, I make an X. Chain 1, I see an X, I make a cluster. Oops. Alright, chain 1. So every time between the cluster of the X's you have to chain 1. Okay, now one more X. Chain 1. And a double crochet into the third chain of that turning chain. You chain 4, and now you repeat that row again. So you're doing that over and over and over again, as many times as you need, and as you can see, you have that diagonal going. And that's why this is so important that you make sure that you have that, when you create that X, that it's always the second double crochets in front of the one that you made previously. And that way you create that diagonal right here, and that's done by those X's. And the cluster is just in between, and that's why this is called clusters on a slant, because the clusters are right on top of that diagonal, as you can see, or should I say maybe between the diagonals that are created by the X's. So you can see this here a little bit more clear on the bigger piece. You have, let me use my hook. So you have here that long diagonal going, here's another one, and the clusters are in between going in a slant. So I can flip this over and it looks exactly the same way. So it is very pretty, it's a very nice stitch, it has some lace going in between, and it's nice and stretchy. So I hope this video was very helpful for you, and you could like and comment below, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.